White Men Can't Jump, the 2023 version. This movie is a remake of the classic 1992 film about a pair of basketball hustlers who team up to earn extra cash. Definitely shout out to Wesley Snipes and Woody Harrelson of the original White Men Can't Jump, which is an absolute classic. Love that movie. So this version definitely had big shoes to fill. And honestly, I'll say that I think it did a decent job of doing so. Do I prefer it over the original? Definitely not. Was it a good movie and would I watch it again? And did I like it? Absolutely. But before I share some of my takeaways, let's shout out the writers. Because if we don't shout out the writers here on the Spun Today podcast, who will? White Men Can't Jump was written by Kenya Barris, Doug Hall, and Ron Shelton. Shout out to Kenya Barris, Doug Hall, and Ron Shelton. Now, the movie stars Sonequa Walls playing Kamal, which is the Wesley Snipes character, and Jack Harlow playing Jeremy, who is the Woody Harrelson character. A couple honorable mentions that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention would be Vince Staples, who plays Speedy, which is one of Kamal's close friends. And quick aside on Vince Staples, by the way, his 2021 album, Vince Staples, I loved. I thought it was a great album. But I hadn't listened to the Ramona Park Broke My Heart album, his 2022 album, and it's really fucking good too. Shout out to Vince Staples. And also want to shout out my guy, Andrew Schultz, who played TJ in the movie. He played a funny role of like a drug pusher at the gym, basically, who's cool with Jeremy, Jack Harlow's character. And someone who I thought was really funny was Miles Bullock, who played Renzo, one of Kamal and Speedy's other friends. And he was like the comedic relief. You know, the movie itself is a comedy, but he was just like on and funny all the time. Shout out as well to Lance Riddick, R.I.P., who plays Benji, which is Kamal's father. So this Kamal character, well, the movie, first of all, in and of itself is obviously a remake of the original and very, very reminiscent of the original. They pay homage to the original throughout the movie in a lot of different ways, from like certain moves on the basketball court to just certain scenes, like when they're hustling in the playground scene in the original where one of the dudes gets pissed off and goes to his car and gets a gun. Here in the new one, the same type of thing happens, but the guy goes to his car and comes back with a flamethrower, which was a little over the top, but funny nonetheless. Certain scenes, like when Woody Harrelson in the original, he's coming off the train. You have that like iconic shot of like the playground, the like stairs from the train station, like overseeing the playground, and him coming down towards the court. They use that same exact scene in this movie. So things like that are like riddled throughout the film, which is definitely checks off the nostalgia box, and it was cool to see. The dynamic between the couples are very similar. So Wesley Snipes' wife in the original, Tyra Farrell, plays like the strong woman that's really holding the family together, keeping track of their like finances and keeping things on point. They have that type of dynamic within their relationship. And similarly, Kamal's character, or the character of Kamal rather, in the remake, and his wife, Imani, played by Teyana Taylor, have that similar relationship dynamic. And then Woody Harrelson's relationship with Rosie Perez in the original, where Woody Harrelson is like the aloof, kind of like loserish gambling guy, and Rosie Perez is like the dreamer, but with a specific direction and vision, is reminiscent of the relationship dynamic between Jack Harlow's character Jeremy and Laura Harrier's character Tatiana in this remake, where she wants to be, I believe, an actress, or she's a dancer and she got the opportunity to dance in something, but like that was like her specific vision dream, right? Now, one of the things that's different is that in this movie, Kamal's character is like this high school and college, I believe college, but he's like this young, up and coming phenom basketball star that everybody knows, and definitely gonna make it to the NBA and get drafted at the top of the heap. And he has his father, played by Lance Reddick again, who plays like a mellow ball type father figure, at least it seems like he's at the forefront of like all the media questions and stuff like that about his son. But then we later come to find that he's just like really invested in his son's like well-being and future, not for like personal gain, but because he was diagnosed with MS, and he knows like his time is limited basically with what he's going to be able to do and what he's going to be able to see of his son's career. So he's like really trying to help him and like push him into becoming who he knows he can be. But as his father gets sicker and Kamal gets like in and out of trouble outside, off the court, and has a bad temper, he, those NBA dreams kind of, fall to the wayside, and he becomes this like washed up college athlete has-been kind of guy. But he's obviously still a hell of a ball player. And then similar to the original, him and Jeremy, they wind up meeting and choosing to like team up together to like hustle and make some extra money. And they have like the similar contentious but getting close to each other relationship dynamic. And ultimately the climax of the movie is that they wind up entering a $500,000 tournament, which had a $7,500 buy-in to get into. It's a 3-on-3 tournament, very similar to the original. Now, Kamal's wife puts up $5,000 of her own money, which is all her savings that she was saving to open up her own beauty salon. She had been saving up for that, and in the meantime, using their apartment as a place to service her clients for like hairstyling and stuff. She puts up $5,000 and tells him to come up with the other $2,500 and go for his dream, make it happen. Him and his friends come up with it, including Jeremy, Jack Harlow's character, and they wind up winning the tournament. And what I like about this one is that you can't, they say in writing, in movies, in stories in general, like you have to have your characters have to have an internal want and an external want. For it to be a satisfying movie from a consumer perspective, they can't just get everything that they want. Everything can just work out perfectly, happily ever after, like type of thing across the board. Like you have to either get your internal want or your external want, and then give up or lose the other. So an example of that from the original movie would be, for example, Woody Harrelson at the end finally getting his financial shit together, even though he continued to gamble, but happened to come up like on the winning side, and then losing the girl at the end with Rosie Perez leaving him. And then this one in the remake, you have them winning the tournament. Imani winds up opening her hair salon. Jeremy winds up getting Tatiana back, who they had like taken a break, broken up. They get to see each other. He proposes to her. He gets her back. He starts getting legitimate clients to work with, professional athletes and stuff like that, because he's like really into green juices and meditation and woo-woo type shit like that. And Kamal winds up getting a contract to play overseas. And he does that for a couple years. And then he winds up getting onto the Lakers G League squad, and then gets called up to the NBA for a 10-day contract, similar to like the Jeremy Lin type story in New York. So all of them get like those like external wants. But on the flip side, his father Benji, again played by Lance Reddick, winds up passing away. And as they say, art imitates life, imitates art, imitates life. But lastly, I'll leave you with this, which is something that resonated. A line from the movie that resonated with me, that Lance Reddick told his son, Cinco Walls, the Kamal character, when he last visited him in the hospital. He told him that, quote, "Your family deserves to know the joyful you, not the you that has a chip on his shoulder," end quote. And that, folks, is my recap and review of White Men